If you are like me, living in beautiful South Shore, Nova Scotia, you might be enjoying the fall colors. Are you like me? Do we love the fall colors? I love the fall colors. I will tell you, this year, it's spectacular. I don't want to jinx it because what normally happens here for for us here in Nova Scotia is we start to get colors and then a hurricane blows through and then we have nothing. So I don't want to jinx it because I'm still enjoying it, but the colors are spectacular. And we were doing our drive, we were going through, we were looking at all the colors, and of course we came around the bend of Highway 10, and there was a ginormous skeleton, like a 2-story skeleton. And I have to admit, even for me, as it came around the corner, I was like, "Whoa!" And I'm like, "Oh, they put that up every year. This ginormous. It's huge. It's not your regular skeleton. Like, I mean, it's huge." Anyway, I realized at that moment that the decorations are coming out. And then I was talking to my good friend Karen. Shout out to Karen. We were chatting. She mentioned the same thing. Halloween is coming up and all the decorations are coming out. And what does that mean for our fearful dogs? And I said, "Karen, you're a genius. Let's talk about that on the podcast. Halloween." So today's episode is called "Why Halloween is Truly Scary for Fearful Dogs and How We Can Help Them Through This Spooky Season." Yeah, I did that. I don't have a scary sound on here, so that's what you got. Let's get into it. Are you worried that your fearful dog may hurt someone or something else? Do you have to prepare just to take a walk around the block? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I too had that dog. The one that you could only walk at nighttime when no one else was around. And I felt ashamed, and oh gosh, I wish that people could just see the dog that I know and love. I wanted the confidence to be able to walk my dog and not have to worry about who or what was around the corner. And I kept telling myself that if I just keep doing obedience drills and distracting with treats, that things would get better. Until I found the secret. Fear is not something that you can train out of a dog. In this podcast, you will find tips to help build your dog's confidence naturally, communication and understanding to foster that trust, and how to address those fear-based behaviors effectively so that you can enjoy a stress-free life with your dog. So if you're ready, stop chopping those chicken wieners, grab your notebook, and let's get to it. Hello, 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 and welcome. It's Tracy. I am so happy to be here hanging out with you today on the podcast. We're talking about all things Halloween. And I don't know about you. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just going to ask you. What do you normally do for Halloween? I'm going to put that in the poll. What do you normally do for Halloween? Are you someone that loves Halloween and you put up all the decorations and you hand out the candy and you do all the things? Is that you? Or are you like me, who has always sort of had large amounts of dogs in my house, and any amount of knocking on my door just erupts like chaos in my house? I remember when I was living in downtown Guelph, Ontario, I had an 800 square foot home, and I always had anywhere between 8 and 10 dogs. Some of them were like the rescued research beagles. Some of them were just other dogs that I rescued. Anyway, the point is I had a lot of dogs. So for me, Halloween was the stuff that nightmares are made out of, honestly. And it was literally just because it was just too much knocking on the door, too much commotion, too much of everything. So I was the party pooper of Halloween. Womp womp. I was. Here, we'll put this in here too. I was the party pooper. I was the one that never put any decorations up. I always turned off all the lights. We went and we hid downstairs in our basement and watched movies, but my basement wasn't finished. A lot of times we went out. We were like true avoidant personalities when it came to Halloween. And again, not because I had bad dogs or necessarily even fearful dogs per se, but I quite often had a lot of rescue dogs. Some of them, I wouldn't know what their response would be to Halloween, and I would never put my dogs in that position. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that today. When, especially for you, if you have a fearful dog, this episode is for you, because I'm gonna let you off the hook. I'm gonna let your dog off the hook, and I'm gonna let you off the hook, and I'm gonna explain the reason why you want to just let your dog off the hook. Okay. Now, if that isn't you, let's say you're hopping on this podcast and you're like, I love Halloween. My dog loves Halloween. I dress my dog up. We have like, owner and dog like combo costumes. We win awards. Like, if that's you, congratulations. I'm really happy for you. And I am. I mean, if it's a bonding experience and your dog is cool with it, then I say have at it. I'm all about you do you. And, as long as your dog's mental health is protected, then I'm all for it. But if you're like me and you're like, my dogs aren't into it, I'm going to let you off the hook. So I'm going to break this into a couple of things. I'm going to talk about the reason why. I will tell you that I do not believe that this is not a training time for your dog. There are some out there, and I've heard this before, that Halloween is a great opportunity for you to help your dog with door etiquette, right? To help your dog, get over because you're going to have so many opportunities in the day for them to practice. And I'm here to tell you, I think that's a terrible idea. I think it's a terrible idea, and for a number of reasons, but in particular, if you have a fearful dog. And I'm going to say the first reason why it's a terrible idea to utilize Halloween as a training opportunity is because it's not normal. Okay? Like, it's not a normal situation. It only happens once a year. And for many of our fearful dogs, they're grateful, right? But it's also not normal. It's not natural, right? You don't normally have a bunch of people coming to your door, ringing your doorbell 27 million times in the evening. That's not a normal thing for your dog. So besides the fact that it's not normal, the things, and I will say things, at your door also aren't normal. So let's step into the mind. I love doing this. Let's step into the mind of the fearful dog. When we have a doorbell or a knock on the door, your dog is probably going to alert bark because they're going to say somebody's here. There's somebody on our property. Let's keep in mind, again, that the alert bark is for protection. It's to alert the rest of the pack that there may be a potential threat. Then, when you open the door, it's the goblin and a mummy and a Minecraft character at your door. It's different shapes and sizes and weird things, and it's a bunch of kids yelling trick or treat. Nothing about that is normal, right? Nothing about that is normal. And on top of it, your dog is like, there's a threat, there's a potential threat. You open the door, it's like a zombie, and you're like, oh my gosh, you're to your dog. It's like, it is a threat. And then on top of it, it takes stuff from you, right? It literally takes things from you. So it actually is a threat that may or may not step into your doorway or whatnot, or take things from you. Everything about Halloween is so not good for dogs, right? And on top of it, we're like, oh my gosh, they're cute. It's weird energy. It's not good. It's just not good. So let's consider the fact that this is not a normal training situation, and let's not set the dogs up for that. Okay? I'm giving you that out, right? If you've ever been told this would be a good time to practice door etiquette or get my dog used to like the doorbell ringing, no, it's not. It's not a good idea. In fact, if you have a fearful dog or a less than confident dog, I would say I'd be working really hard. If you're going to be the person, unlike me, if you're not going to be the black-hearted person that's just turning off all of her lights and not engaging in trick-or-treating, if you're still going to engage in it, then I would be working really, really hard to set up a almost padded comfort zone for your dogs. We used to actually put our dogs, for the time being, we would actually set up their crates or X pens in our basement. And we actually like put curtains up, and we also turned on music and whatnot to kind of mute everything. It didn't really help. The dog still barked, I'm not going to lie, but it was at least we made an attempt to make it like, muted so it wasn't quite as extreme. Okay. So I would go that one step further. Make sure that your dog has a comfort zone. Make sure that they are protected from all of this. I wouldn't have, if your crate is in a place where normally they can see the door, I would move it. Move it to your bedroom or something. Let your dog just have the night off. This is also a great time if you're someone who's been practicing like place command or stuff like that, where you're actually telling your dog you don't have to worry about these things right now. Maybe, getting them into that kind of mind frame, like in your bedroom, just like putting them in place. None of this doesn't concern you. And if we're having conversations with the dogs, and by conversations, I mean with our body language, not our actual words. But if we're having those conversations with the dog and the dog is starting to feel anxious, we're going to say things like, you're fine. It's okay. Like, no, nothing's going to harm you here. Go to your place. I've got this. We're going to make it very, very clear that this isn't about you, because I don't want my dog coming to the door with me every single time somebody comes to see all the different types of ghouls and goblins. And I don't even know what are the kids dressing up as these days. I have no idea. Like, I don't honestly know. I haven't done trick-or-treating with kids in a long, long time. So I don't really know what they're all dressing up as, but you get my point. So give your dog a break, give yourself a break. If you want to give yourself a break, I would, invest in like going downstairs and having your dog down there, turning off all your lights, playing a movie really loud, curling up with your dog on the couch. That would be my suggestion. But if you're like, no, the kids, I like seeing the kids and it's part of your joy, then finding a way to protect your dog would be the next thing. Okay, so we want to make sure we're setting up a safe space for this. Let's talk a little bit more about why this is not a great exercise for dogs. And it has to do with the dog's perception of the threat that's coming in. So if you're someone like me that has a fearful dog, and I have a people sensitive fearful dog, she's working really, really hard every single day in her brain, categorizing what humans are, right? And what do I mean by that? If you're in the program, you'll know that I've talked about this all the time. But our fearful dogs go through the "oh my god, I'm gonna die" moment, followed by the I didn't die" moment. And what we're trying to do as great guardians of our dogs, as great partners to our dogs, helping them cope with Humansville, which is crazy enough on its own without the costumes. What we're trying to do is we're trying to life layer those positive experiences on top of one another. And when we do that, our dogs will sort of categorize their experiences. Like, they saw this person, it smelled like this, it moved like this, all of those things. It categorizes it in those categories, and it goes, I didn't die. I had this experience. I didn't die, which is fantastic, right? So as they're categorizing and they're going along in life, they are life layering those experiences. So what happens when we when we have Halloween, because our dogs are don't have the best visual perception, okay? They rely much less on their vision than we do, right? Their nose first, and so smell, but also movement. When it comes to their eyes, it's not really about the detail. Dogs have dichromatic vision, so they only really see in like two main colors. It's hard for them to see the full spectrum. It makes it harder for them to differentiate things. So when we got flamboyant costumes with different shapes, it's hard for them to decipher that, right? They're going to be like, I don't really understand that. So what happens is our costumes actually cause the human shape to distort in the dog's mind, right? So they go by recognizing familiar silhouettes and familiar movements and smells. Now you've got someone who's wearing a costume, and for all we know, the costume might be rented, might smell funky, I don't know. But if there's like capes and headpieces, masks, all that thing, that's going to distort what the dog expects as a human shape. Okay. And that distortion is going to make them go, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. And I've never even seen this thing before. Right. That's like a crazy thing I'm going to see. Right. So when we're talking about that, they also have poor depth perception compared to humans. So they're better at detecting movement. And, some of the kids are going to be maybe making like, movements that mimic their costume. Like there's so many variables when it comes to Halloween for our dogs that our poor dogs aren't going to be able to categorize or figure it out. And then on top of it, the if we're talking about the natural approach and retreat that dogs should be allowed to do to get over that fear, they don't have a chance to do that. Kids come to the door, they ring the doorbell, your dog barks, your dog goes to the door, it goes, what is that? The kid goes, trick or treat, yells things, you throw candy in their bag, the little person runs away, and they haven't even had a chance to even decipher any of it. Right? So none of that gets categorized. It was just a scary thing. They didn't have a chance to figure it out, and now it's gone. And now the doorbell's ringing again, and a different scary thing is there. So you can see how, from the dog's perspective, this is not going to be a fun game for them. I don't really truly believe it's fun for most dogs. I know there's always going to be the exception to the rule. People are going to be like, my dog loves Halloween, loves seeing all the kids. That could be true, but you're probably the exception to the rule. You're not going to be the rule. I'm just going to say that. And if you're on here and you've got a fearful dog, that's not going to be true. So that's the first thing. So my suggestion for Halloween, as I've already mentioned, I'll just recap it a little bit. If you're going to be home, create a comfort zone. Do not ask your dog to come to the door with you to see all the ghosts and ghouls and all that stuff. It's probably not going to end well. It's just going to be a lot of stress on the dog. So have a nice comfort zone, a padded comfort zone, if you will, one that can sort of allow the dog to shut out everything and not have to worry about it. Or if you're like me, take the dog for a long drive and go away until it's Halloween's over. Go out for a drive, find a nice dog-friendly place to like hike. I don't know, but we used to avoid it at all cost. That would be my suggestion, especially if you have a fearful dog. Or, and I'm going to put this out there for anybody who has a newly adopted dog or a rescue or foster, you do not have enough trust built up in that relationship for you to be at a point where the dog's going to trust the situation you put them in. This is a definite trust buster. Oh my gosh, I love that. Trust buster. Someone get me a pen. I need to write that down. I'm using that again. Trust buster. Sometimes I say things and I'm just like, that's good. I'm going to leave it. Anyway, it's a definite trust buster for sure. Oh, the more I say it, the more I love it. I just love it. Okay. So we want to make sure that we are doing things to protect the integrity of our relationship when it comes to this. And Halloween being one day a year, not the time to practice. All right. Now here's what you can do. Let's say, here's the one thing I would say you can do that is going to help. Okay. Prior to Halloween, as people are putting their decorations up, maybe not the 20-foot skeleton that's on Highway 10 here. No, maybe not that one, because that's really crazy. But, and you know what, now that I think of it, there's so many big floaty things that people put on their lawn. But let's just say you can be discerning and you can utilize this opportunity for your dog to get the approach and retreat and some wins on stuff like decorations that don't move. Please test them first. Please test them first. If they're your own decorations, you'll know, but don't go up to somebody else's lawn who's got all the stuff out there and just, because some of them move when you get up there and we don't want that. Okay. That's the caveat to this. So please test it first. If it's one that moves or changes or tries to scare, don't use it. But for stationary decorations that you find, you could allow your dog to do the natural approach and retreat. And if you don't know what that is, we can talk about that later. Or when you come into the Fearful Dog Fearless Framework, you'll get all the information about how to do the approach and retreat for inanimate objects. It's one of the easiest protocols to do if the thing doesn't move. This is the caveat. Remember, it can't move, it can't jump out, it can't scare them, because that will be devastating. Don't do that. But if it's inanimate and it's not going to move, you can utilize this time on your walk to get in a few of those approach and retreat things. Remember that the rule for approach and retreat training is that you have to take the time it takes. Okay? Don't start this and be like, oh man, I've got a casserole in the oven, I got to get home. Don't do that. Okay? If you don't have time, don't do it. If you don't have time, you're just going to get by it, get through it. But if you have the time where you can support your dog, allow them to go up and sniff, maybe they'll come back a little bit, maybe they'll check it out from another angle, do all of the approach and retreat till they get to the point where they get it all the way up there and they sniff it and it doesn't kill them. And they look at you with that awe and go, I didn't die. And then you're going to have a celebration. That's when I would feed. If you're someone who works with treats, I'm not against treats. Just don't bribe a dog into looking at something scary. Don't do that. Let them have the win on their own. It takes time. It takes a little bit more time, but you can do it. Let them do it. When they figured it out and they have that, I didn't die, and you'll see it in them. They'll be like, oh my gosh, I survived that. When they come back, you can have a celebration. Yeah, you did it, man. Look what you did. And we might give them a little bit of food. We might celebrate then. Even after that, I might throw food towards it and see whether or not they're happy with like hunting around it and all of that stuff. But the approach and retreat protocol for inanimate objects is a great relationship booster, because one, you're supporting your dog through it, you're letting them get the win, and then you're celebrating with them. And it's a great thing. You'll be like, yeah, that was really scary, but you did it. Like, it's an amazing way to sort of really bond with them and allow them to do that, a natural approach and retreat on their own. So Halloween can be used for that. Again, and I'm going to say it again, please make sure you test the decorations, because there are some decorations that do jump up and do scare you, or something comes out of them. Are you someone that likes those haunted houses? I hate haunted houses. I hate being scared. Like, I hate being startled. And I hate haunted houses where they jump out at you. My natural reflex is to punch those things. So I am not I'm not the person to go through a haunted house with. just to say the least. All right. Okay, so I think that's it. That's my tips for Halloween. We'll recap them really quickly. When we're talking about the actual night of Halloween, when the trick-or-treaters are coming, if you have a fearful dog, this is not a training opportunity. Don't try to train your dog through it. It's not worth it. There's so many variables. There's so many things that are not natural to the dog. Let's just not do it. Let's give our dog a safe space. When I was boarding dogs, I actually boarded quite a few dogs for Halloween night. And I thought those owners were brilliant. They were like, I love Halloween, but we're one of the busiest streets. I like seeing all the kids, but it just makes my dog crazy. So they actually boarded their dogs with me for Halloween night. And it was great because I lived out in the country. I didn't have trick-or-treaters at all. The dogs got to spend the day at the kennel. They got to run around with their friends. And then they were in their nice, peaceful kennels at nighttime. No Halloween to be found. So that might be another option for you if you have a really great daycare or boarding facility. That might be something to consider as well. But let's not force our dogs to endure Halloween. But if we are going to find some training tips for this time, we can use it to do the approach and retreat protocol. If you want more clarity on that, you can message me. I'm more than happy to share it. But also, if you're in the Fearful Dog Fearless framework, that protocol is in there for you. You can get that there. But allowing them to have approach and retreat, you're going to have lots of opportunities for them to do that during the next couple of weeks leading up to Halloween. So there you go. That's my tips for Halloween. I don't have a boo, but yeah, I'm just going to do that again. I don't know. The crow's the only thing I have on this board. I should find a boo. Not a boo. I have boo but I have booing, but not like a ooh spooky sound. I don't have one of those. Enough of that. All right. If you enjoyed this episode, can you do me a favor and share it? Share it with your dog loving friends. Share it with people that you know maybe are going to have a dog that struggles through Halloween. Whatever, do your best. Share the podcast out. If you are joining me on Apple and you haven't already done so, could you please leave me a 5-star written review? It really does help to push the podcast out to more and more dog lovers like you and I. And just an extra like nudge to my fellow Canadians. Come on, Canadians. I mean, help a Canadian out. Let's let's get those reviews in. It really does help. It really does help. If you're listening on Spotify, you can now leave me a comment. Let me know how you enjoyed this episode. If we are not already connected, if you're not are we pen pals? We need to be pen pals. If we're not, please make sure you go to beyondobedience.ca and sign up for the Canine Chronicles. You'll get a love note from me every week letting you know what's going on in my life. And it gives you an opportunity to send me in questions. You can just let me know what's going on in your life. I mean, us dog lovers have got to stick together. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? I'm right. All right. So there you go. As always, get out there, my friend, and be the person that your dog thinks you are. Because your dog thinks that you are amazing, and so do I. Have a great few days, and I will talk to you later. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast is meant for entertainment and education purposes only and should never replace hands-on professional training. If you're really struggling with your dog, please reach out to a professional in your area. Okay, I think that's it. Bye for now.